Welcome to Between Two Coaches, a digital mentors podcast for visionary coaches, consultants, authors, and experts building purpose-driven businesses. I am your host, Norbert Orlewicz, co-founder of Digital Mentors. And in every episode, we dive into real, unfiltered conversations with thought leaders, mentors, and catalysts who are reshaping the way that we teach, lead, and grow. Now, this episode is sponsored by our Digital Mentors Compass workshop. If you are a coach or expert struggling to stand out in the marketplace, enroll more clients consistently, this workshop was built for you. It's a strategic experience that combines expert mentorship with AI-assisted tools designed to help you simplify your message and sharpen your marketing strategy. You're going to walk away with a personalized marketing roadmap built for your business, your goals, and your voice. And you can grab a free ticket to the next live session at compassworkshop.com. Again, that is compassworkshop.com. I'm super excited to bring on today's guest, Ally Machate. She is a publishing strategist and founder of The Writer's Ally, a former Simon and Schuster editor with 25 plus years experience in the industry. She now helps authors write, publish, and sell, most importantly, high quality books that actually will fuel your business growth, help you attract ideal clients, and boost your authority. She's known for her honest, strategic approach. Ally helps authors cut through the noise, avoid costly mistakes, and turn their books into actual real marketing engines for visibility and results. Ally, it is my honor to have you here with us today.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is an exciting conversation because I myself am very excited and interested in publishing my own book, hopefully in this next year. And we've got a lot of our clients and listeners as well that I'm sure have either been trying to publish a book, have published a book, or probably want to publish a book sometime in the future. Now, let me ask you this question. Why do you think books, publishing books, is more important now than ever before, given all of the rapid changes that are happening in our world today?
Yeah. So I think that books are a really uniquely magical kind of experience. And we live in this world where there is no shortage of content. Content comes at us from all directions, every device, every platform, every kind of content imaginable is available at our fingertips. Now with AI, it's going to be even worse than ever, even more content than ever before because it's so easy to create. What the world needs is not more books and more content. It needs better books. And the reason it needs better books is because it is one of the few opportunities we still have to really invite a person into our minds as authors, but then as readers it's a two-way connection as well. They're immersed in your mind, in your thoughts and your ideas and your processes and systems, and you are also having an impact and a transformational impression on the person who's reading your book. They're spending 6 to 8 hours minimum with a full-length book, really just delving into your perspective and the way you see the problem or the world or whatever it is that you're writing about. There's no other type of content that can really do that and have that kind of effect. And I think that that's why writing a book can be so transformational for the author, but also reading books are so transformational for people. There are very few things in this world that can still do that. And even though a lot of us are reading books on devices now instead of paper, it's still a book and it still sort of has that gravitas.
Yeah, it really is like that antidote for the short form content that we're just constantly inundated with, and the short attention spans. In marketing, we always talk about getting the time and attention of your prospect. To get 6 to 8 hours of their time where they're consuming our thoughts and our perspectives, that's an incredibly powerful marketing tool. Now, you are a self-proclaimed book nerd, and what's really fascinating for me is I was expecting somebody who was much more focused on the academics of the book and writing the book properly and all of those types of things. But you're an actual marketing nerd too. Your focus is all around not just writing a book for the sake of writing a book, but actually using that book as a marketing tool. In your time with Simon and Schuster, because you spent a lot of time there and obviously learned a lot about the industry there, when was it that you were first open? When did you first open up your eyes to the business side of books? Like, when did you realize that a book could be more than just an artistic project, just an expression of a person, but actually become a true business asset as well.
Honestly, you learn it real fast when you start working at a big five publisher. It's I'm sure that the experience is quite different when you get to work at, say, a boutique literary publisher or a small press. But in big publishing, it is very much corporate publishing. We were owned by Viacom at the time. There are quotas and there are bottom lines and there are stockholders accountable. And book publishing is very much a business, even though a lot of the people who come into book publishing, myself, included, come in because of a love of books and a love of writing. But I think that it's not exactly true that everyone is so focused on literature per se. There's a lot of different kind of books out there and we all love different kinds of books. But I think what unites people in book publishing is that passion for the written word and this special vehicle that we're talking about. So yeah, I've been interested in that for a really long time. But working at a big publisher, not only do you have to learn it, to progress in your job and be good at your job, but also it's kind of a privilege to really see behind the curtain and understand the engine of how those books that change people's lives get into their hands. Because when you think about it, it doesn't matter how good a book is. If nobody ever finds out about it, nobody reads it.
Yeah, absolutely. That no matter how great of a coach you are, right? Or service provider you are, or whatever great ideas you have, if nobody sees them, if nobody knows about you, then unfortunately you can't make the impact that you hope to make with other people. So, could you share with us, like, what is the one thing that you hope to communicate to potential authors, existing authors, that they probably don't think about or don't realize when it comes to the business side of books? Like, what are some specific examples, or can you show us of how a book can actually drive growth in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll use a really simple example. We are talking a little bit beforehand about how you were using your book as a lead magnet. That's a really common use for a book, a really great use of a book, giving away free copies of a book to grow your mailing list, to have that audience that you could then nurture for other things. But a lot of authors are really hesitant to give books away, especially if it's their first book and they're sort of new to this whole idea. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? First, there's just the basic gut reaction. Well, like, what do you mean give it away? I'm here to sell books, right? Like, isn't that the point? I want to sell books. Another part of the problem is that they look to those big publishers. They look to traditional publishers as the sort of model, right? This is the highest level of publishing. What are they doing? Well, we want to do sort of the same thing that they do. But the reality is, it's a very, very different ballgame. And one of the most important things that they don't understand is that a book publisher is in the sole business of selling books.
Mm.
Their books have to reach millions of people. Their books have to sell tens of thousands right out the door, or they get abandoned because it's not even worth pouring more money into it if they don't sell a certain amount by certain dates in their timeline, right? But as a business owner, especially coaches who are very often becoming authors to leverage a book as part of their business in particular, you're not in the business of selling books. Like, yes, it would be great to sell books. Again, of course, you want to sell books, but you're not in the business of selling books. You're in the business of selling coaching services. And so, would you rather keep trying to push and sell books where you're making a couple of dollars in profit at a time? Or would you rather give away 100 books and get a $10,000 coaching package from somebody? Right. So it's a very different way of thinking about the role the book plays in your business because you are in a very different kind of business. And it's a little bit deceptive and counterintuitive, but a lot of authors miss out on that very simple technique that can really help them grow their business in such a serious way because they just aren't thinking about it right.
Genius. I mean, honestly, that mindset shift, I think, is so important for coaches. I always tell people, be sure that you're very clear on what the purpose is for the asset that you're creating, right? So if my clients are doing a webinar or a workshop or writing a book or creating a lead magnet, I'm always asking them, what's the purpose of this thing, right? And
Yep,
that's to your point. What's the purpose of my book? Is it to sell millions of copies? No, because I'm not going to sell millions of copies. It's
that's
to
right.
get clients. So then that changes your approach, probably in writing it, in how you promote it, in how you present it, and all those types of things.
Yep.
That's huge, huge. So important to do that. Let's talk about the wrong book problem. Now, you've got a workshop. We'll talk about that. I think you've got a webinar that talks about this issue. But let's just briefly touch on this topic here in this interview. you often say that most experts end up writing the wrong book. Now, that would be scary because I know how much effort it's taken me just to write half of this book. It's about 92 pages right now. It's still got a lot more work to do. What does this mean about writing the wrong book? Because I don't want to write the wrong book. What are you talking about? And what are some of the early warning signs that an author might be heading down the wrong path here?
Yeah. So the idea of the wrong book versus the right book in this context that we're discussing, when you're writing a book for the purpose of leveraging it to achieve some kind of goal, those goals are almost always related to business growth one way or another, right? So when that is your goal in writing the book, you want to make sure you're being very strategic, as you were just saying, understanding what you want the book to do for you in the world beyond just selling copies influences how you write the book, how you package it, how you market it, everything all the way down the line. So the wrong book is a book that doesn't strategically align with what it is you actually want the book to do. For example, perhaps what you want it to do is not in alignment with the people you're actually targeting the book for. Maybe you've written the book for a group of people or an audience that's not going to get you to the goal that you really wanted. A really good story that I like to tell, even though it's a very sad story, but it's really emblematic of this, is that I met a woman once years ago. She came to me for book marketing help. She was a new coach. She had just launched her business, and everybody told her, oh, you have to have a book. It'll help you grow your business. Write a book. But of course, she was a brand new coach. She didn't have any clients. She didn't have any stories. She didn't have any systems or processes yet. So what did she do? She did the next thing that a lot of people tell you. Well, you don't have to write the whole book yourself. You can get an anthology together of other people's stories. So here's the thing. She knew she wanted to coach, in particular, women who had low self-esteem issues as the result of having been abused.
Mm,
Okay. Really great niching down as far as a
yeah.
business goes. She knew exactly who she wanted to reach. When she put the book together, it ended up being a collection of stories from women who had overcome certain things in their lives, not all of which was self-esteem related. None of the women were her clients. None of the women had even worked with coaches. Okay. So she ended up with a book that was a good book. I mean, she really put effort into it. It had a nice cover. It was well written. She had edited all of the pieces. The stories were inspiring. Nothing in that book was going to get her clients.
Yeah. They were great stories, and I'm sure they made some people cry and, inspired some others, but you're right, it didn't serve the purpose of getting clients. So that kind of leads me to the next question. Am I ready to write a book? For somebody like her, would you have said, "Well, hold on a second, maybe you're not ready to write a book," or would you have come up with a different strategy of a different type of book to write?
That is a really important question because timing does come into it. There are these myths out there like everyone should write a book, every business owner should write a book. A, I don't believe that's true. And B, it's not always the right time, as you're suggesting. Absolutely, when you're so early in your business that you don't even really know what you're doing yet, it is just too early for a book. This idea that the book is going to help you grow your business is true, but you have to have a business to grow first. It's not the thing that gives you a business. And I can give you another really great example of a woman I met more recently. Fantastic lady, super smart, great cred from her corporate days, had recently retired and decided to shift over into coaching full time instead. So she was just launching her business. Again, everyone said you have to write a book. So she was smart enough. She hired up a consult with me early so we could talk about her idea before she dove into it. And we talked about it. It turned out, though, what she really needed most was money. She needed an income flow, and she didn't understand how long it was going to take to write and publish a book.
Yeah.
Also, for the same reason as the woman in the first story, even though she had a lot of great experience in her corporate days, she didn't have any coaching clients yet. So she didn't have any of her own case studies or stories, and she hadn't really put her ideas and philosophies to the test in any real way in this context. So, yeah, she could have written a book all about her ideas and theories, but it wouldn't have been as good a book. She didn't have, that expertise in the sense of I can teach this to other people through coaching and get those results for those people. All of her stories were in a totally different context. So when we spoke, I convinced her that she shouldn't write a book yet, that she should give it a couple of years. And instead, she should work on creating a course or a group program of some kind where she could test those ideas, attract real people, build an audience. And in a year or two, if she had done all of that successfully, not only would she have great stories and proof of concept to put into a book, she would also have an audience to sell that book to that would help her to reach a much broader audience. So a book was right for her, but maybe not yet. And in the first story, that definitely would have been my advice, is it's just not the right thing for you right
Here's the book marketing expert telling you, "Don't write a book." Not
now.
necessarily, yeah, and I love that because there's lots of this, like, great advice out there, like, every business owner should write a book, and it's like, "Well, yeah, that's a great idea, it's great advice," but it's not necessarily the best advice for you based on where you're at in your business, and I think
Yep.
that's really important to take away from this. Well, let me throw out my idea here, and I wanna get your expertise, your opinion on this. So, that was kinda my thinking around this whole book here, is that I figured I wasn't really ready to publish it. I mean, I've run online business now for 20 years, but this company, Digital Mentors, was just in its second year when I came up with the idea for this book, and we were still figuring out all of our systems and processes and optimizing our marketing and all that kind of stuff. And so my idea was, okay, I know I want to publish this book, but I'm not ready. I don't think I'm ready to publish a book yet. So what I did is I threw down some ideas into what I call a mini book.
Mm.
And my first version of this book was actually just 42 pages, and it's a digital copy. You'll notice it says not for resale because I just got this from Amazon, but I don't actually have any printed copies. I sell all of these digitally. So what I decided to do was just write a 40-page book of some of the concepts and ideas and frameworks, and I started giving that away as a lead magnet first, but the content from that first book has now become the second draft, which is 92 pages, and then will eventually become my full book maybe next year when I get around to it. What do you think about that strategy? Pros and cons? What do you see with that?
I think that's brilliant. That's a fantastic way to not only test your material in the real world. I hope somewhere in that process you've built in a way to get feedback from people or to see how these things are actually landing, because this is a
Getting
great
that now.
opportunity.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, getting that now, because that's the whole thing. I mean, we talk about that marketing all the time. I said the most important thing is you wanna get out into the marketplace and test your messaging as soon as possible. Stop hiding behind the computer, tinkering around on figuring out your website or your branding colors. Let's get out there and test your message, and that's what you're saying too, is don't put the time and energy to writing and publishing a book until you've tested out some of the messaging and ideas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's no, not only do you have this opportunity to do that for yourself, the way that you're growing this book, but you're also building the audience as you go. So you're giving it away. It's also much easier to digest, right? So sometimes people will give away a full length book, and that can be a great list builder, but I guarantee you a very small percentage is actually reading that whole book, right? Like,
Right.
42-page PDF, 92-page book, even, that's a much easier ask. So not only are you going to have more people on that list, I bet you're going to have more people who are really, really excited to read the final version when it's ready. You're going to have a strong launch team. I think you're in a really good position with this.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's get down to this because this is the big question that is on my mind as well. And I'm obviously going to be booking a session with you to talk about this when I'm ready. Traditional versus self-publishing. This is the big question. There's hybrid options now. There's so many
Mhm.
different options. I tried spending a few hours doing some research on this and I quit. I was just like, I don't know. There's just too many options. Where do we even start with this research? How do we even start to figure out what's the best path for me?
So the first thing to know is there are roughly four paths. You have what we call traditional publishing, that's getting an agent, then the agent sells your book to a publisher, and you have a traditional publishing deal. At the far end, on the opposite end of the spectrum, is what we would call complete DIY self publishing, where you, as the author, do all the things yourself. You do the cover, you do your own editing, you publish it up, upload it, all of that yourself. In between those two, we have hybrid publishing. Excuse me, hybrid publishing is more like traditional publishing in that they usually have submission guidelines. It's a little competitive because they make money both on collecting flat fees from authors to subsidize the book production process and selling books. So since they make money selling books, they're not going to just publish anything. They're only going to publish books they deem really truly marketable and viable. So it's like traditional publishing in that sense, but they're asking you to subsidize the process by paying a flat fee upfront to help. Then you have what we do, which is called supported indie publishing. That's what I call it anyway, supported indie publishing. And the idea is that when we work with a client, when you decide to self publish your book, we consider you the publisher and we are your outsourced publishing team. So our authors have their own imprint, their own copyright. The book 100% belongs to them. We upload all the files into their accounts and we help them to do everything that needs to be done. A lot of the services themselves are done for you, but when the project is all said and done, we turn it over to the author. It's not a royalty situation, it's a flat fee work for hire situation. So you have those four options. Traditional publishing is a lot easier to rule out than most people think. And that's because, quite honestly, very, very few people are qualified and credentialed enough to get to that level. It's just the truth.
You're not ready. You're not ready.
You're just not ready. And a really good way to think about this that I think is more understandable is to use sports metaphors, right? I talk about baseball a lot.
Hey, all right.
It's like the major leagues, right? Traditional publishing is like the major leagues. There are thousands of very talented players that don't ever make it to the major leagues. There's the minor leagues, there's the farm leagues, there's college ball, right? There's lots of people who are extremely good that still don't make it to that very top elite 1% in the major leagues. And traditional publishing is the same way. So it doesn't mean you suck. It doesn't mean that your book isn't worthwhile. It just means that's the top Olympics professional layer. And most people just aren't in that category. And that's the beautiful thing about the kind of technology and the other three options you have available is that you have three very good, viable options to still get your book out there and have that impact.
Awesome. So now let's go to the other end, the complete do it yourself. I'm going to just do this all by myself. My issue with that is the quality. Like I'm pretty talented and I think this is a good book and I'm a really good marketer, but I've never published a book.
Right.
I don't know all the steps of the processes, and I know that there's some things that I'm gonna miss, and I know that it could be more effective and probably higher quality if I got a little bit of help and assistance. So tell me about the do it yourself option. I'm probably gonna assume that you don't recommend it, but just talk to me about it. Who might it be for, and what are some of the drawbacks that, some of the red flags that we gotta be aware of here?
Even in a true do-it-yourself scenario, I usually recommend that they try to outsource at least a few services, like hire a cover designer, bare minimum at least. But really, the only scenarios in which, if you are a business owner, right? This is a very specific scenario. I'm not talking about people who are turning 90 next year and they've decided to write a memoir for their family and they want to have something beautiful that leaves a legacy behind. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about business owners, coaches, experts, etc. When you publish a book as part of your business, you need that book to be of a certain level and quality. You also need that book, as we've been talking about, to be very strategically designed and aligned to accomplish very specific goals. Now, that's hard enough to do on your own. But now you have to factor in being able to edit your own work, being able to create professional level design files, being able to write the marketing copy that goes on the cover, right? It's not just a summary, it's marketing copy, being able to do all the other things related to publishing and marketing a book. The truth is, if you want a professional quality book, it has to be produced at a professional level. If you are an amateur, you're going to produce an amateur book. It's not a criticism, it's just reality. We're all business people, right? Like we know that that's just how it is. So if you are in a situation where you truly have no budget for a book, I would honestly ask that question we asked earlier is it even really the right time? If you don't
Mm.
have enough cash in your business for a project that is by definition a very intensive and sometimes expensive process to do it well, maybe that's not your primary focus right now. Maybe you need to do something else that's more directly tapping into cash flow than writing a book. A book is a longer game strategy. So, you know, I don't recommend total DIY for
Yeah.
hardly anybody. In the rarest cases, when you just have to move so fast that you can't even get on anyone's schedule, that's probably the only case. Other than that, people who truly don't have expectations of selling books, that's who should be totally DIY. That's just
Right. Absolutely. So if we're talking to business owners and coaches, I don't even think that would be an option. It's definitely not something that'd be recommended because you want it to serve a purpose. And honestly, if you can't afford it, then let's talk about creating a lead magnet for your business. Let's talk about improving your marketing strategy for your business before we talk about actually publishing a book, because you want this to actually, I mean, a book is one of the best credibility and authority building tools you can have. And so if it doesn't accomplish that purpose because the quality is lacking, then you've just wasted a whole lot of time.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about your service without being too marketing and promotional here, but really this is what I'm curious and interested about because I'm being selfish here in this interview. Traditional publishing is not for me. I am not ready for that at this point. I know do it yourself is not for me because I want this thing to actually be really good. So now we're down to hybrid and then what you do, the supported indie publishing. Can we talk about those two? What are the differences? Where do you stand out? What's unique about what you guys provide, which I think is a pretty unique service?
Yeah, absolutely. So the major differences between supported indie publishing and hybrid publishing, we sort of touched on a little bit already. Hybrid publishing is a lot more like a traditional publisher. So their business model is they will charge a certain amount of money to subsidize the project from the author upfront, but then the rest of the money is basically their portion of the investment, and they're going to recoup that money ultimately by taking the profit of the book and paying the author a royalty. So they are very much the publisher. The copyright always goes in the author's name, but it's going to be their imprint on the spine. They're going to have a lot of control. It's going to be their ISBN. It's going to be published to their account on Amazon or Ingram or whatever distributors that they use. It also means they have a certain amount of control, just like a traditional publisher. A lot of people think of traditional publishing and they hear that language, oh, someone bought my book.
Hmm.
And I think that's really misleading because what it is more like is bringing on an investor in your startup business. Your book is your business, your product. A publisher gives you an advance, or in the case of a hybrid publisher, they don't give you an advance, but they're willing to put some of their own money in the form of services and their staff to help produce the book and get the book out there with the expectation they're going to earn that money back. So they're going to demand a certain amount of control. Now, a good hybrid publisher gets the author's input in a lot of different ways because everyone knows that a pissed off author is not going to help sell books very well. It's just logic. You want the author to be happy and engaged. But that doesn't mean they always are. Sometimes a publisher will make a decision you don't agree with. Hybrid publishers have that right, and they'll have those kinds of contracts.
Hmm.
It also means you have less control. We've worked, for example, in a marketing capacity with a couple of clients who have hybrid publishers, and they weren't willing to do things like, as I said earlier, give away books, which can be incredibly powerful for a business owner. A publisher doesn't want to give away books, they want to sell books. So you have a real conflict of interest as far
Hmm.
as what's best for the business. Um, on the other hand, a hybrid publisher, like a traditional publisher, can have relationships with large book distributors, mainstream media channels, getting the books into brick and mortar stores. So if you have a book that is much more mainstream, that is heavily dependent on mass visibility and just mass appeal, a hybrid publisher can be better because they can open those doors in a way that an independent publisher just never will. They just, they don't deal, these places don't deal with self-published authors almost ever. So that's one reason why you might choose hybrid publishing. I will also tell you hybrid publishing is generally much more expensive because they tend to have bigger packages and they're not so customizable. So sometimes you're getting a lot of stuff that may not actually be best for what you intend for your book.
Okay. So from what you're telling me there, the one thing that stood out for me there was if I'm in a specific niche, the benefits of hybrid publishing as far as their connection to distributors and things like that might not really be as beneficial for me. So it's really much more beneficial for those authors that might have a much more mass market appeal type of topic or book.
Exactly. Just like I said about the traditional publishers, hybrid publishers want to sell books.
Yeah.
They're not in the business of selling coaching packages.
Right.
So who is best? Who's our best client? The people who are publishing a book specifically as part of a business growth strategy, where they understand that that book is a tool, that that's something that they're going to leverage, it's going to help them achieve different things in their business, usually related to their growth. They want the most control, but they want a professional product, and they're aware that there's things that they just don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So professionals who understand, just like, I respect other professionals, I hire coaches, I'm in a mastermind group, right? When you're a professional, you understand other people respect what you do and pay you for your expertise. It's the same scenario. You are an expert in what you do as a coach, but you're not an expert in book publishing. So you get those services, but you retain total control of your project, which gives you maximum flexibility.
Well, this was a very easy sales pitch for you. Obviously, your option makes the most sense here logically, and I'm a logical type of person, so it just makes sense. Is there something that I'm missing here? Is there a question that I'm not asking that I should be asking, or is there something that you would want people to know about this process? Maybe that's just that we haven't touched on yet.
I think the only thing that we maybe haven't touched on yet is also timing. There's a huge timing difference between the different publication routes that also can factor in. At the far end, traditional publishing on average can take 2 to 4 years. You have to submit to get an agent first. Then the agent submits the book to publishers. Then you get a deal and you negotiate a contract. Then eventually your book gets submitted. Then it takes almost a year to 2 years just to publish and produce it. It's a very long process. So
Wow.
if you were in a hurry, traditional publishing is not for you.
Yeah.
We are probably the second fastest next to doing everything yourself because, and of course, in that scenario, the only restrictions are your own time.
Mhm.
We are probably the fastest. And, you can imagine hybrid publishing is kind of in between.
So for business owners, again, if we're writing a book for a business purpose, you're more affordable, we get it done faster, and we get full control.
And you're going to get just as quality a project as you would from a traditional publisher if you work with me.
This is starting to make my choice a lot easier. So I'm really happy that I met you and that you've come on to the show here. All right, let's go beyond the book sales now, and let's talk about longevity and leverage. Like, how do I make sure that this book that I write and that I publish, it's not just, hey, here's my big launch. We have a good launch. We sell a few books, and then it just starts collecting dust on a shelf, and we don't really leverage and use it. What are the things that we need to think about as we're writing the book and creating our strategy around this book?
Two key things in particular. The first is understanding that when you launch a book, again, yes, you want to sell books. That is, the kind of so obvious that we don't even need to talk about it benefit. But you want to think very much when you launch your book about the foundation that you're building for your long term marketing. Because again, when we're talking about a book that's really going to be leveraged as part of your business, hopefully that's something that's going to serve you for at least a couple of years. So it's not just about what happens right now, the second I throw the book out the door, like it is with a traditional publisher. They need all their sales, their biggest sales happen right away. For you, that doesn't need to happen. You're going to be using that book in many different ways over and over and over again for years. So the real purpose of your launch, yes, to sell books, but more importantly is reviews. This is the piece that a lot of people miss. Whatever you can do, and again, often that strategy involves giving away free or very low cost copies of the ebook, I should specify. We're not talking about, 99 cent or free paperbacks. We're talking about ebooks, which is a little more palatable, I think, for most people to hear that. If you have to give away lots of ebooks to get the minimum of 50 positive 4 and 5 star reviews that Amazon's bot likes to see, that's what encourages Amazon to start promoting your book to other people. You need to get that and get that within the first 30 days of your book's launch for Amazon to pay attention.
There's a lot of authors that need to hear this before they get out there and start putting their books on Amazon, because I see way too many business books with 2 to 3 reviews, and you're basically telling me you're never going to be found.
Pretty much, because anytime you do any other kind of marketing, think about what happens, right? It's just another kind of funnel. If you're sending people with the most brilliant marketing plan ever, and they come to that page and they see 2 reviews and your book's been out for 4 months, they're not buying that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple.
It's that
So,
simple and that obvious. Yeah. But
you
we
know,
don't, but how many people actually considered that
right,
before they embarked on this project?
right. So reviews is number one. And the number two thing that's really important to keep in mind, as I said, is that long term strategy. Yes, have a big launch. Yes, ride that energy wave, get people excited, have fun, celebrate your accomplishment, for God's sake, right? Like, yes, all of those things, but also understand that you're going to be leveraging this book pretty much until you decide you just don't care about the book. There's almost no point at which the book just sells itself unless you are at the level of, Stephen King and Jodi Picoult and Nora Roberts and these kinds of people. Their books sell themselves. Ours generally don't. So you're going to be marketing that book for a long time. Pace yourself. Be strategic about it. Don't just throw everything you have at the wall. You're going to burn out. And that's what happens to too many authors. And then here they are a year later and they feel shame because that book that they worked so hard on and were so excited about has just been sitting in that Zoom background gathering virtual dust.
I love the way you say that about sitting in the Zoom background. That is so real. That is so real for so many people. Ally, okay, tell us, how do we get in touch with you? You've got a free gift for the listeners, and you've got a mastermind as well that you run several times a year. Tell us about those details. We're going to leave all the links in the show notes, of course, so people can get in touch with you. But just give us a little bit of info about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the free gift I would love to offer to everybody. It's a link. It goes to my evergreen webinar. It's about 25 minutes. It's called Don't Write the Wrong Book. So it's a nice follow on to everything we've been talking about today. It talks about exactly what it means to write the right book, how to avoid writing the wrong book. And I walk you through a simple 5-step process for how to think about any ideas you currently have to make sure they are, in fact, going to be the right book for you.
Mhm.
You can get that at offers.thewritersally.com/ between two coaches with a numeral 2. So that's for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something. If you already have a draft of a book and you are ready for developmental editing, or if you've been through that process and you need anything else, we like to say that we play nice with others. So we have packages at every stage of the book. It's okay if you've worked with other people at different points, but you can contact us directly through thewritersally.com. We have a form there to get you signed up for a call so we can see how we can help you.
I love your name, Ali Machadi,
Machate.
Machadi, and then Writer's Ally. It's beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
said Writer's Alley. I said Writer's Alley the first time until you corrected me, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's Writer's Ally. That makes so much more sense." But of course. Okay, we're gonna have all those links down in the show notes, in the description, so if you're listening right now and you didn't catch all that, come and visit us at the Digital Mentors Podcast, and you'll find all that in the show notes. Ali, this has been so valuable. I knew I was going to learn a lot, but I learned everything that I needed to learn. And you just made my whole decision process, I think, so much easier. And I think for a lot of the coaches listening here as well, so much easier as well, and answered that big question, right? Which path do I pursue? So I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom and insight with us. It's going to be really valuable for so many people. If you enjoyed this episode, and I'm sure you did, please share this out with your networks. We are a new and growing podcast and we could use your help. The best thing you could do is, of course, like, comment, and download, but please also share this with your networks and audiences. There's a lot of coaches, experts, and future authors that need to get this information. Thank you guys so much. This has been a conversation between two coaches.